is completely unacceptable.
These people on South William Street have mixed views.
There's a balance between the government and the council giving some facilities, but also people having the cop on.
You're dealing with Irish people. Give them a pedestrianised street and alcohol. What are they going to do?
A new online referral system for COVID-19 testing has gone live in Limerick today. It's part of measures aimed at tackling the high rates of coronavirus in the county. Testing capacity at one of the walk-in centres has been doubled from today, and another pop-up facility will open next week. Meanwhile, Stephen Donnelly has received his first dose of a COVID vaccine. The Health Minister, who's 45, received the vaccine at a leisure centre in Greystones in County Wicklow. And finally this hour, Microsoft has blamed accidental human error for its search engine Bing failing to produce any results for Tankman on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protests. Users in the UK, US, Germany and Singapore met with the message there are no results for Tankman when they searched for it on Friday. The 32nd anniversary of the demonstrations refers to an image of a lone protester standing in the path of an oncoming tank during the suppression of protests in Beijing's Tiananmen Square in June 1989. Microsoft has been accused of censoring the image and cooperating with China. And that's your news update. It's just gone 2 minutes past 3.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. We're listening to customers so we can improve our services.
A mainly dry but cool night tonight with prolonged clear spells and isolated showers. Lows of between 5 and 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 o'clock. Football on Off the Ball thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. You can text us 53106. Tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming live as well. So as well as listening on News Talk, you can watch us on the social channels for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook and on the OTB Sports app. If you haven't downloaded our great app yet, do so by searching OTB Sports in your app store. We're joined to talk about the beautiful game by Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell and the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan. Good afternoon, lads. Hope you're all doing well and getting some sun, if you can get it. Dan, was that a good day for Stephen Kenny on Thursday against Andorra? Very worrying for 55 minutes, but they flagged. We finished the game well. I feel quite neutral about it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it was it's a good day if it leads to something better. I mean, it was looking like a pretty bad day when it was, when it was 55 minutes gone in the game and you're 1-0 down, and there's a shot deflected behind for a corner. So I don't know. I mean, like it's a win, you know. Like I think there's been far better performances under Stephen Kenny, but like he's been judged by, the whole line of you've had 11 games and no win has been hanging over him. So they did get a win. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think it'll be the details of the Andorra game will be forgotten pretty quickly when you get into the Hungary game, whether it goes good or bad. There's little personal landmarks. The fact that Troy Parrott sort of seized the moment, I think, you know, whatever happens even with Stephen Kenny, like we might still be looking back in years to come as a sort of a landmark event in Troy Parrott's career, and Jason Knight as well too. But I suppose the hope, the optimistic slant is that in the short term, what happened in the last half hour on Thursday can give them some kind of momentum. So, like, you know, you would say, well, at least that question is gone. But I mean, then the next thing would be, well, there's no competitive win, you know. So like that's the other box you have to tick. But I suppose, it could have been worse. But I think we need to move beyond the it could have been worse as a sort of the definition of a good day.
I heard Richard Dunn on the panel earlier, and he was saying, Shane, that not a bad thing that Troy Parrott's had a tricky season because he's learning. He's only 19. You know, it hasn't been too easy for him at Millwall and Ipswich Town, and he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and he won the game almost on his own in ways. Like, he set the tone for the rest of the goals to follow. Yeah,
well, I suppose the comment I'd pass on it, John, is the idea of things not coming to you very easily in your late teens and having to grind maybe before you really get into a groove. It didn't seem to do Harry Kane any harm. When you compare two Spurs centre forwards, he certainly didn't kind of hit the headlines till he started to get a few more years into it. And it was a bit ridiculous. Anybody who thought that Troy Parrott was just going to be able to go out to the likes of Millwall or an Ipswich and set the world alight. I mean, it's all well and good doing it at the level he was doing it, but there's a big difference between that and big boy football, I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it. It probably will stand to him from a character point of view, but he certainly did deliver the other night. There's no guarantee that game would have been turned around if Troy hadn't gone and well, not quite single-handedly, but he certainly was the main man in terms of turning it around. If we'd gone another 10 minutes at 1-0 down, now, I mean, you really start to get worried and lads start to get anxious and they maybe start to do stupid things with the ball, trying to force it. So the fact that he was able to turn it around so quickly for us was huge. And look, you look at the results that Stephen has been having, I suppose, and to be honest with you, I think we would have had a hell of a lot more of those kind of poor results against average enough teams right throughout the last few decades if it wasn't for Robbie Keane. And I know Robbie takes a lot of flack at times, and he brings some of it on himself. But there's no doubt, he took us to a different level. He absolutely took us to a different level. He saved our skin time and time again. And you look at Troy, and he's done it now the other night, and there is the potential there that he could be the fella who pulls us out of fire on many occasions going forward in the same way Robbie did.
Does he deserve a place in the team now for Tuesday, Dan?
I was writing about this today. I mean, I don't know if at the start of the week the plan would have been to play Troy Parrott in both games. Although you do look at the options that Ireland have or don't have, maybe players that are missing, particularly when Connolly and Robinson pulled out of it. You sort of think like I have to say about Parrott. I will answer your question in a second. Like the one thing you would say in Kenny's defence, that. I don't think there was a mad call for Parrott to play against Andorra, because of the underwhelming year he's had. Like I was certainly in all the press conference. I'm not sure I recall any questions about Troy Parrott. And listen, that's the nature of the news cycle. It's always about the new guys. So probably a lot of questions about Jamie McGrath in particular, and maybe even the feeling that McGrath might play against Andorra, particularly as they're sort of they're a team that sort of you need to unlock them, so you need that creative number 10 maybe to try and do that. And people probably weren't thinking of Parrott in those terms. He was sort of in the squad. Like, Stephen even said himself the other day, some people said he should have been with the 21s. I don't know who specifically said that, but I can certainly, I can understand why some people would have said, even like for example, like Anthony Scully is a young Irish player at Lincoln City who scored, I think, 17 goals this year. Didn't make the squad. Like Troy Parrott in League One for half the season, scored twice, so I could, on form, like, he maybe was a questionable inclusion if you want to look at it in a very blunt terms, but clearly, in terms of ability and in terms of development, Kenny concluded that this is a game you can play him in, and this could stand to the long run. And to follow and to actually answer your question, I probably think he should play on Tuesday now because he's got a bit of momentum, and sometimes you've got to try and run with that. And like Troy has had a lot of expectation on his shoulders from the start of his career. I was over at his debut for Spurs when he was 17. It wasn't just an Irish thing. There was a real interest from Spurs fans, the Spurs media and stuff. There was a big expectation around them. And I think if you've had people saying good things about you for a long time, and then it flips the other way, and people are probably across the year, all you hear is disappointment after disappointment. Parrott has been underwhelming. Even Millwall, when he went there, they made a big play on social media about here's Troy Parrott arriving at the ground. Like, they weren't treating him like an 18-year-old kid on loan. It was very much like, here's a player here. And everyone got behind that. And I suppose it can go both ways for the player then when they have a bit of negative publicity. So I think that when he's finally got some, a bit of sort of positive momentum, I'm sure his confidence is buzzing after Thursday. I'm sure everyone in his life is onto him. And while I'm tempering expectations, I'm not saying you should expect it to be as easy against Hungary as he found it in a way against Andorra as he glided through. I think for the sake of the development of the player, I think there's an argument of, put him in again. Let's see if he can build in it. Let's see if he can go into the summer in good vibes, because even doing something against Hungary could even help his club career in some way, to remind people what the hype is about. So I think he should play. I think the slight complication with that, though, there's a tactical aspect to it. Like, he was able to play Troy Parrott as a sort of number 10 second striker against Andorra. The question against Hungary is, does Kenny feel that he would need a more, if you're going to play a similar system, would you need sort of a more defensively minded number 10, almost like a third central midfielder in those central areas? And then do you have to find room for Parrott somewhere else, which is possibly what he's struggled with a bit, is that he's been moved around from pillar to post. So there's a slight tactical aspect. I don't know what Shane thinks about that, but I think I think you would play him, but maybe finding room for him. I'm not sure if it would have been in the plan initially before this double header, but I'd say it's fairly tempting now. Maybe even as the number 9 through the middle. But I obviously, he needs a bit of momentum, and I think it's worth playing him, definitely.
Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, no, he definitely makes a good point. I would have thought the intention. Yeah, it's how much Stephen allows the Andorra game to influence his thinking. I think, if I was to put myself in his shoes, I think he would have picked a starting 11 for both teams before the first game even kicked off. And I wouldn't think Troy Parrott was due to be in the lineup for the Hungary game. I really, really wouldn't. And I think Dan has hit the nail on the head. I would be very, very surprised if you're not looking at a 3 midfield. Or look, there's two kind, as you know, there's two kind of 10s in the world. There's a 10 that'll gravitate towards the 9, and there's a 10 that'll gravitate towards his 6 and his 8. And I would have thought the 10 that he goes with, be it I don't know who he'll go with, but I would think it's that sort of a player. I think he might stay with that, to be honest with you. I think Troy might have to do with coming off the bench. But that's okay. That's okay. Again, as Dan said, there's no rush here. It's only kind of a couple of months since we were almost writing him off as his time had come and been and come and gone already, which was quite ridiculous. He was going to be the next best thing, and now we had all decided, well, actually, he's not going to be the next best thing. He's a lot more close to average than we had all assumed, and now all of a sudden we do think he's going to be the next best thing, and that's just the way it tends to roll, particularly with international football, I suppose, even more so. But there's no rush. Leave him on the bench. Get him a half an hour, maybe see can he nick another goal then at that stage. And again, really, these two games are all about building. And I can understand the criticism. Obviously, I can understand the criticism of the performance the other night, and there's no doubt it was quite slow and lethargic for an hour. But in the same way that I just see an awful lot of commentary that's focused almost exclusively on the negativity and willing to push aside the positivity because, it was the last half an hour and they got tired. Well, no, to me, you have to, if you're going to talk about the negative aspects of the performance, well, then at least, pay attention to the positive aspects as well. And there were positive aspects. There really, really were. Troy Parrott's all-round game was quite decent. I thought Knight was really, really good. Really, really good. Fantastic cameo from Daryl Horgan as well. And there's a lot of players, probably for the first time ever, almost in a Stephen Kenny team, coming away with their chests out now a little bit and a little bit more confidence in themselves. And I don't care who the opposition is. We went out there with Dundalk, obviously last season in the European qualifiers, and it's difficult. It is difficult. No matter how poor the opposition are built up to be, if they, when they get bodies behind the ball and with any sort of reasonable structure at all, it can be really, really hard to break down. It's not as easy as people like to make out. You look at their last 2 results. I mean, they've only won their last 2 games by 3 goals as well, and that was against a Poland team with Lewandowski in it. And even from the betting perspective, I know our friend Johnny Ward had a few quid on Ireland to win by 3 or more and got a tasty price on it. So, the bookies didn't think we would win as well as we did in the end. And in the end, we did win the game by 3 goals. So there are positives to take from it.
Johnny Ward is here in spirit. He's here in spirit.
On spirits somewhere else. But I wonder, there is a possibility that he might switch to the 3 at the back again on Tuesday. I kind of wonder. I mean, Stephen Kenny did make the point in one of his press conferences last week about the need to be adaptable, the need to switch formations. And I'm just throwing this out there. I could be completely wrong. Actually, it's a bit strange kind of covering one of these summer tours from home. I definitely think there's a certain detachment in some of the coverage as well, which might explain even some of the commentary sometimes, because you don't have that day-to-day of sort of being there, even watching a bit of training and getting a handle on what's going on. But the whole Kenny era has been that way. So it's been at times quite hard to read what's coming. But and there's this question mark over whether Seamus Coleman will be fit or not. But if Coleman was fit, would he want to try and look at Hungary away, say, in the way you might for maybe a tough qualifier coming down the tracks, so would it be, a back three? Would it be, Doherty a wing back if Coleman was, or even if Coleman wasn't fit, that you could have O'Shea, Duffy, and Egan in a back three, and then you have a situation because you potentially have two strikers that then actually Parrott may possibly play in that combination, and that's possibly a route for him into the side. Although I think there's certainly Garrett Horgan will feel he should be included in some shape or form, because I think this is another thing as well, and this is gone off on a slight tangent, that I think sometimes in the discussion around the Ireland team, like we sort of obsess sometimes over where players play and what level they're playing at. And listen, of course, that's, it can be very relevant, and it's always a very relevant form guide. If you've someone doing well in the Premier League, doing well, then of course, there's going to be a big clamour for them. But if you think of someone like Darrell Horgan, for example, who has spent this season playing for Wickham, who got relegated from the Championship, although they're probably pretty unlucky to get relegated in the end, and he didn't play really since March. Yet every time he's played for Ireland, I think under Kenny, he's brought something to the game that maybe other players aren't bringing to it. And yes, he might on paper be playing at a sort of a lower level, than people ahead of him in the pecking order in some cases, but he sort of keeps performing. And it's a bit like, there comes a point where Stephen Kenny, when he was Dundalk manager, always used to speak about players being suited to the international game and not getting bogged down on where they stand in the English ladder. And I sort of wonder if it comes to the stage where sometimes we keep playing some big players and because of their reputations to some respects or where they play, but actually it comes to the point, should someone like Horgan just be in the team now because he offers something that other players haven't? And I think that's, and even with Parrott, he didn't have a great season at League One or Championship level, but he has that little bit of an ability about him to just get into positions, and he's done it all the way up at underage level with Ireland at 17s, even with the 21s. He just has this knack. And do you just go with these players and trust in them, even if they haven't had a great year club-wise? And I think we sometimes have to find a balance with that, rather than necessarily obsessing that we have to have all the Premier League players on the pitch. But there's probably a couple of points to discuss with that.
53106, go on.
Just before we move off Andorra, just a quick one for you. When we were heading out there last year with Dundalk, I was doing the analysis on them, getting ready to play against them and the whole lot. And obviously we saw the other night that Idefons Lima came on to, I think he's the second player ever to play international football across 4 decades. Now, 3 decades or 4, Dan? Which, let me think.
I think it's it's a record international career because it spans 24 years now, I think. Yeah, so
across 3 decades or so. Yeah. We were looking at him, JD, and I was looking and going, this guy, sure, he's 42, 43. He can't move. We have to go after this fella in a big way. I made a big play about it in the opposition analysis going into the game, and I have to be honest, he was absolutely the best player on the field. He was outstanding against us. We could just get no change out of him whatsoever. His reading of the game was unbelievable. And we got chatting after the game because he's a big kind of player out on the scene out there. He's actually embroiled in a bit of a battle with the Andorran FA, and we actually exchanged numbers after it, the whole lot. So I think himself and Jari Litmanen, is it, Dan?
I think he has played across 4 decades. He scored against Ireland in 2001. But he was involved in a dispute because I think he criticised their COVID protocols last year. But he's very active, and so he replied to a tweet I put out the other night. I didn't realise till the following morning that it was actually him. Within an hour of the game finished, I put up something that if Troy Parrott was to have the same longevity as Ildefons Lima, Parrott would be involved in the 2044 European Championship campaign. Because that's the length of his international career. And like within an hour, like he'd responded to this going, a hard work mate, with a picture of a load of pint glasses, like in his response. And just started thinking, I think for all the 42-year-olds out there who are like already getting vaccinated in Ireland, like, in Andorra, they're playing international football still.
Well,
but they are operators, some of them, Well,
I know what it's like to be 42 and not being able to move. I can tell you that. And
he can move, John. I mean, how do you feel about Ildefonso Lima? How do you feel about him?
Yeah, well, I did have a PT from January, but I've kind of I need to get back onto it now. But yeah, I registered yesterday, so I'm looking forward to the text message and to get vaccinated and to be able to have a pint as well, lads. But Stewie Byrne was on the show with Nathan Murphy there on Thursday, and he feels Ireland are lacking confidence when it comes to playing from the back, and he gave his thoughts to Nathan as to what he thinks is causing it.
So trying to play a more expansive game plan by playing it out from the back, why don't the players look comfortable doing that? Because any time Andorra put any pressure on at all, Ireland seemed to panic.
So they don't look comfortable anymore doing it. End of story. We did look comfortable doing it in the first 6-7 games. We don't look comfortable anymore doing it. And the reason being, it's the confidence has gone out of the team. It's as simple as that. And I know a lot of people will say, confidence, like these guys are well paid, they're experienced professionals. It's huge. Confidence is huge. And it's not necessarily an individual, it's confidence with any one individual. It's collectively as a group. We're now struggling, and I'm talking about pre our first goal here. We're struggling with this now. We're saying, is this really working? We're tentative. You can see we're not moving the ball quickly. Players that you think, the likes of Matt Doherty plays for Spurs, you're thinking, can he not do something? But he's not. All around collectively, games live on TV. We know everyone's watching. It's the end of a season. We should be sharp. And it's been put up to us by an Andorra team who are just doing exactly what we should expect them to do, and that's be full of energy, squeeze us high, just burst along for the first, 50, 60 minutes, because they're only capable of doing that. They were always going to wane. The fitness was always going to go.
Shane Keegan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, look, he's fairly on the ball there, so he is. I looked at the Y Scout match report on the back of it, John, and I suppose like Conor Horan only attempted 14 passes in the entire game. I mean, that's poor for a centre midfielder that you need to be getting on the ball and prompting your attacks. And I think he was 0 for 4 from progressive passes in terms of trying to break the lines or trying to get us moving forward. Now, to be fair, he's put in a really good ball for one of the goals, all right. But that aside, because he's had a brilliant second half of the season, so he has. So he was a guy that I was really, really hoping would step up. Josh Cullen was a bit more involved, all right. I think it was kind of somewhere between 25 and 30 passes. He did a lot better, and his pass completion was a lot better. But again, I suppose he's a little bit more about the neat and tidy stuff. It's this inability that we have to play through the lines. It's just not good enough. We have to be able to progress the ball in a better way than we are, because I think we get a lot of stick about the lack of goals that we score, and to be fair, I think most people are quite clued in now. I don't think people are saying well, it's the centre forward's fault, or it's the 10, or it's the right or left winger's fault. I think everybody's kind of looking, well, the problem we're not really scoring enough goals is because the rest of the team aren't getting the ball effectively to these players to try and do things a bit better. I mean, you've seen, all three of the line, the line behind the centre forward, in terms of the one that finished with Knight, Darrell Horgan and Parrott, let's say, all three of them produced the other night. Okay, it's only Andorra, but I don't care. They produced, and they can produce when they get the ball, when they receive the ball in dangerous areas. Problem is, we seem to find it so difficult to progress the ball through those first 2/3 at the moment, unfortunately.
I think the thing as well is that, when Stephen Kenny came in, there was an element of, he wanted to change the way Ireland played, and but now there's been 11 games or 12 games, and obviously opponents now know the way that Ireland are going to play as well. I mean, this is obviously they will now be, teams that prepare to play Ireland. Like, they're not going to be, they might, throw out sort of platitudes about, the Fighting Irish and all this stuff, but their opposition analyst or whoever it will be, will have watched, they have a fair body of recent work, to watch, and they will see the way that Ireland try and play the ball out. And of course, there are moments of obvious discomfort that we have seen, and then opposing teams will encourage their players to press them accordingly. And Stephen Kenny's point was that he felt Cullen and Conor Harran were getting so deep, almost getting into the full-back positions to pick up the ball. And then when you basically have a situation where you have a second striker and Parrott, there'd be a big gap then between the midfield and the attack, and they just went backwards, and it sort of went a bit nowhere. But it's always been the slight concern that's been aired about the style of play, is that do Ireland have the sort of outstanding central midfielders who are really comfortable taking the ball and playing, breaking those lines and getting out of trouble. And there are players who are good technical players, like Cullen and Conor Harran, for example. Both are good technical players, but obviously, there's a certain responsibility that comes with doing that, under a bit of pressure, and you could argue in the case of Harran, he's possibly more comfortable at club level further up the park. So that's always been the thing. It's why you cry over the loss of Declan Rice sometimes, because I think he would have been probably perfect for the way that that Kenny probably wanted to play as that sort of more defensive midfielder. And he did have big plans for James McCarthy when he went in, and he's been effectively out of the game since then. And they've tried other players in there to varying degrees of success. But you could argue that there's a lot of midfielders in there who are more suited to being more of a number 8 as the second midfielder, as opposed to necessarily being that pivot who starts things. And Cullen is possibly the closest thing to it, but he he's still learning. And also as well, I think Kenny did make the point that the wingers that played the other night, some of the angles they would have been offering wouldn't have been great as well. And there just seems to be a hesitancy there at times, and the one thing they're going to have to deal with, teams now are going to expect it from Ireland, so they are going to press Ireland, because they will have, the discomfort is obvious. So obviously that makes the argument sometimes that you're just going to have to mix it up a bit sometimes and try and turn them.
The key,
but they don't have pace.
The key point that
yeah.
The key point that Dan is making there, JD, is again, just looking at the stats report on it, and without getting too geeky, there's a number that I really like. It's PPDA, they call it, pressing actions per defensive action, passes per defensive action, and Andorra were doing so well for a team of limited players. They were allowing 10 passes was the most they were allowing per defensive action for the first hour. Now, fair play to Dan. Dan had a piece leading into it about how they do fall off. The fitness kind of is a concern for them. But the point is, for the first hour, they were pressing really well. That PPDA figure was coming in at number 10, in around 10 for the whole first hour. And then literally from the moment they scored, I don't know whether it was fitness or whether it was psychological because they'd scored, but that number fell off a cliff and dropped from 10 all the way down to 30, which was quite ridiculous, really. But now, all of a sudden, they're not doing what they had done for the first hour. Better teams, obviously, will be able to do that for 90 minutes. No problem to them whatsoever. Now, when they dropped off and that defensive application dropped off, we were great. We scored 4 goals. Problem is, against the better sides, that defensive action isn't going to drop off. Teams are going to come to us like that for 90 minutes,
Okay, 53106. Hi, lads. We only beat Andorra when they got tired. How bad does it need to get? We should be looking for a new manager now. For example, Chris Wilder, says Sean. Come on, John, a bit of balance. 3 cheerleaders discussing Kenny will go nowhere, says Mick. Well, Mick, we're just having a discussion around what we saw the other night. And as I've said so many times in the programme, Stephen Kenny deserves a full campaign. And then we'll see where we are at that. I still have faith in Kenny, says one of our textures. When he's got his best 11 out in the field for a run of games, I think we'll get better results. How many of that 11 versus Andorra was our best 11? And get a grip there, lads. Irish soccer's a joke on and off the pitch, will always be so. Just accept it and stop the hype, says one of our textures. Obviously, I don't think we'd agree with that.
It's just caught off the show, John. What are we doing? We just have to keep going. We have no option but to keep going. We have to continue the sport of football in Ireland. We have to keep going with it, I think.
Well, luckily there's 109,000 people listening to the show right now who probably don't agree with that texture and do want to hear the debate that we're having. Wexford 2-7, Antrim 7 points in Division 1 Group B of the Hurling League. Ireland's hockey players, the women, 3-0 down to the Netherlands at the moment. Remember, the Republic of Ireland is the biggest show in town in this country, so of course it's worthy of debate, even if it's Andorra, if it's Portugal, if it's Hungary, whoever it is. We're back after the break on OTB Football Saturday here on News Talk to talk about Spurs, Manchester City, and look ahead to the European Championship.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Show Me the Science with Professor Luke O'Neill.
A News Talk original podcast series focusing on different issues, from the serious to the silly. All explained through science. Catch up on the podcast series at newstalk.com or on the News Talk app.
It's time to trade up to the new Peugeot range at Gowan Motors, Navan Road. The fantastic new model lines come with a choice of electric, hybrid or fuel. And right now, you can avail of Peugeot drive time offers. That means Peugeot ads, flexible payment options, 5-year warranty, and up to €4,000 scrappage allowance. Available now at Gowan Motors, Navan Road. Terms and conditions apply.
When you get enough people together, you can achieve almost anything. Send someone like me into space, or create change on the ground. People power, strength in numbers, whatever you want to call it, it works.
Together with over 1 million homes and businesses already with Electric Ireland, we're making changes for a brighter energy future. Be part of the change at electricireland.ie.
At Online Tradesmen, we've never been busier. And if you're a trade professional, there's never been a better time to join us. Access over €17 million worth of jobs nationwide every month, along with e-learning and other supports. Need a website for your business? It's included in your membership. And on average, Online Tradesmen members get up to 10 times their fee back in new sales, marketing tools and savings. Apply today at onlinetradesmen.ie. Online Tradesmen, the home of qualified trade professionals.
Ireland is recovering from the pandemic, and the reopening of our economy and society through June is on track. Our vaccination programme underpins our reopening, with 50% of the adult population having now received at least 1 dose. Our new economic recovery plan will provide supports and investment to get the country back to work. A range of new initiatives will help people return to work, with upskilling and reskilling where necessary. And extra supports will be provided for sectors that have been particularly affected by the pandemic. Existing pandemic payments for employees and businesses will be extended, with phased adjustments. The focus now is on rebuilding our society, with sustainability, balanced regional development, well-being and quality of life at the centre. As we recover, it is as important as ever to stick to the public health guidelines. Think outdoors, and even outdoors, keep your distance, avoid crowds, and wear a face covering when in busy places. If we keep working together, we can keep moving forward. For full details of the Economic Recovery Plan, visit gov.ie/recovery. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
You know what? Whoever said that nothing in life is free is wrong. My mate, One Leg Larry, got a free ticket to a crocodile enclosure last year. Although, up until that point, we just call him Larry. It's probably a bad example, but what about your PRSI entitlement at Specsavers? That gives you a free eye test and free glasses from their €69 range.
And now get free hearing aids with PRSI too. Book an appointment or find out more at specsavers.ie.
Enjoy perfect dishes with Zanussi's large-capacity multifunction ovens. And when you're finished, the cleanup will be a breeze with the built-in self-cleaning function. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Planning a summer break? Make Clayton Hotels part of your getaway experience. With destinations all over Ireland, you can soak up the views of our amazing Irish coastlines, then soak in the atmosphere in our welcoming bars and spacious lounges. Squeeze in the local attractions, then stretch out in our big family rooms. Enjoy endless adventures, followed by meals made to thrill.
Delicious.
And priceless moments. Alongside affordable luxury. Experience the best of Ireland, inside and out. Book now at ClaytonHotels.com.
Sinead, you look a bit stressed. Is everything okay?
No, I've shopping, prepping, cooking and all the ironing to get sorted for next week.
You're mad. Why don't you just use Gourmet Fuel? They've over 200 delicious calorie-controlled meals to choose from and deliver nationwide. You'll save time and feel great.
Take the hassle out of healthy eating and order today at gourmetfuel.com. Ironing not included.
Last year, National Lottery players raised over €254 million to support good causes all across Ireland. You make this possible. The National Lottery.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5, joined by the Irish Independent Football correspondent Dan McDonnell and the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan to talk about the beautiful game. Our coverage thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. 53106 for the texts, tweets at Off the Ball. Listen on News Talk, but also watch as well on the digital and social channels for Off the Ball, for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. 53106. Couldn't agree more that the Republic of Ireland team is the biggest show in town and generates interest like nothing else. Love the OTB coverage. However, I feel Kenny is on a real cliff edge. The general public patience with the style is waning. The players are not there for a dynamic passing game, and perhaps a better route forward is a combination of possession-based and long ball physical style. We're in danger of being very predictable and passing without any great purpose, says Tom on 53106. From Tom, it's interesting as well, we really haven't had a Stephen Kenny era with fans at the stadiums, and I'd be fascinated to see how patient the fans would be, lads, if they were there, and they will be there soon.
I think that is a big point. Sorry, Shane, you go. Yeah.
No, fire away, Dan.
No, listen, I do think that's significant. I think there's obviously a massive debate around the Kenny era generally. But what we've missed is that full-time whistle response, because the FAI is strapped for cash. I mean, that's very well documented. And the Irish team is the biggest show in town, so there will always be debates around them and tweets and texts and stuff. But I suppose it's often like the match-going public that in many respects hold a lot of power. You know, that if okay, we don't know what we're going to have in September, October, November. Predictions are dangerous, and it's possible that it'll be restricted, so the games may well just sell out anyway because there'll just be a desire to go to matches. But there will obviously be metrics that you can judge the response, and I still feel there is a lot of support out there, while there's also skepticism, which you would have to say is probably growing. But we are still tracing this through the same channels, like the sort of social channels, where sometimes it can be people who shout the loudest that you hear on occasion. And I think that's a very significant point. I think that will actually probably have some kind of factor that I do think there is a desire out there for this to go well, even if it hasn't been going well so far. But obviously it's not going to be endless patience. But I suspect that you will find there will be a lot of people that will be very keen to go out and support the team positively. You must look at the order of the games in September, which I think is going to be very significant for the whole mood music around it. Portugal away, I think on the 1st of September, which is obviously going to be a very difficult game in any circumstances. But then there's Azerbaijan at home on the 4th and Serbia at home on the 7th. And Azerbaijan is going to be that must-win game. And the mood and how that game goes will probably have an impact on the mood around the Serbia match. And I think we'll actually probably get some answers to those questions then.
Yeah, because the Cyprus game with Staunton was the one I remember when the fans just said, no, we've had enough.
Yeah. And I think your texter is probably broadly right, in fairness to him, in that it's that middle ground of people who can kind of be moved either way. I think League of Ireland fans, people with an interest in the League of Ireland, obviously, and like myself and Dan and that, I don't think too many of those will have moved away from Stephen. I think they'll have seen what Stephen has done over the years. They'd have a massive amount of respect for him, and they'd still have a huge belief that he is the person to get this right. Then you have the ones on the far end who didn't think Stephen should have got it in the first place and are now kind of smiling and feel that they've certainly been proved right. It's that group in the middle. To be fair, John, I would think a hell of a lot of that group in the middle who are kind of, yeah, maybe he is, maybe he isn't when he got it initially. You know, it's to the group it's to the side who feel he shouldn't have got the job. That it's that direction that, you know, the vast majority of those have moved. So in that sense, there probably is that a kind of a growing faction who are not against him, but starting to run out of patience with him, and that's why it is, as you know, as Dan has said there, you know, those games are so important in September to try and pull that group around. I think, I'm not saying League of Ireland people will have endless patience with Stephen. They certainly won't. Look, they're not going to be completely blinkered, but I wouldn't see too many of those having moved their position yet. So I think that really kind of groundswell of strong support that he had from that faction is still very, very much in his corner.
Yeah, it's funny though. I sort of see where Shane's coming from, but I mean, the League of Ireland is a fairly petty place. I think there's a few people in the League of Ireland who've had issues with Kenny from the start. So I'm not sure about some of these labels sometimes, like, but I know where it comes from, and there's probably a certain truth to it. But I kind of wonder, like, I think it has the potential to turn very quickly both ways. Like, I actually do believe that. I think it can, you know, I think, you know, there's possibly a certain amount of, like, I thought it was interesting after the Luxembourg game that I probably thought there would be more anger. And listen, there was anger, but I think at one point there was one of the social media accounts, a prominent social media account, put up with something about being sacked in the morning. And again, we're seeing everything on social media, which is just a fake metric in some ways. But this is what we do. We've been inside for 15 months. That like there was actually a massive backlash to that, as if people say, no, you can't be talking about someone losing his job. Give him time, you know. I think there's possibly there's people there who want it to work. Now, there's a difference between wanting it to work and believing it will work, I guess. But I think if he could get some kind of landmark result in one of those games, and really, let's be honest, after the Luxembourg, he needs to do something in the games against Portugal and Serbia in some shape or form. I think you could see like a real positive response to it, because not so sure. I think there might be a small group of people with a vindictive streak who don't want it to go well for him. But I do fundamentally believe that a lot of people did want it to go well, but have their reservations. Yeah. And I think it wouldn't take much to flip it. But, you know, it's certainly, I certainly think, like, it's become a bit of a shouting match sometimes around the Ireland games between the for and the against camp. And it's been a bit draining, to be honest, and it can get a bit draining. And what we've missed is that neutral match-going audience that aren't watching what other people are saying and sort of reacting to that the very natural, how am I feeling during this game in the stadium feeling, that I think would be pretty informative.
Yeah, just to finish on that 5-3-1-6, lads, do you honestly think a full Aviva Stadium would have put up with the Luxembourg game, says Niall? Well, we don't know, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, because it's coming soon. As you say, what's it called? There's almost the silent majority, whether they be silent or not, is really the
I think the question is, though, like, I mean, I was at one of the games against Wales, and because I've been at these closed doors home games, and there was actually some really good passages of Ireland playing that game against Wales, and you're kind of thinking you wish that the stadium was there to almost feed off it, you know, and to get it. And like, it has been flat, those games, you know, but listen, that can be used as an excuse, and it can be used as you could say, well, actually young players have got the chance to play with no pressure. So you can look at it both ways. But it is interesting. It does seem like that the stadium is going to be full on Tuesday for the Hungary game, because the Hungarians have taken that approach. So that'll actually be interesting, because like, whatever about home crowd supporting you, even just to play in a full house will be interesting, because if Ireland do have passages where they do try and keep the ball, can they like frustrate a home crowd? But there's a whole side to football that Stephen Kenny hasn't experienced as Ireland manager, because all the games, with the exception I think of Finland, You know, and you know, a handful of there's been a handful of spectators at certain games. It kind of would be interesting to see how they cope, even as an away team, if there is a sort of a hostile or sort of, you know, festival atmosphere on Tuesday with a Hungarian team about to go to a major tournament. Like, that is something we haven't seen, and it could go badly as well and go in a completely different direction.
Does what happened last week with Man City, Shane, affect Pep Guardiola's share price as the best manager in the world, in your view?
I suppose it has to, John, really. You know, it keeps getting thrown at him that he hasn't managed to win a Champions League, you know, whichever way you want to phrase it, since he's left Barca, or without Messi, whichever way you want to put it. And it was a chance for him to put that one to bed. Yeah, look, I mean, they were so good domestically. I really thought that they would go and win last Saturday night. And, like, there's nothing new. I've listened to so much commentary since last Saturday, and there's no new angle I can come at it with, John. You know, the majority who are saying that it appears he allowed himself to outthink himself, it just does. It definitely does seem to be the case. And look, when you do something radically different, as we know, you're a genius when it works, and you're a fool when it doesn't work. But I don't think it's just hindsight. I think, you know, I spoke to probably half a dozen people between the team sheet being handed in and kick-off, and every single one of them fancied Chelsea's chances more than they did before the team sheet was handed in.
Because the holding midfielder.
Yeah, 100%. And even, but the knock-on effects of the holding midfielder, John, like, you know, 3 or 4 different fellas found themselves having to play in a different manner because of that one decision. So, look, I don't know. You'd love. I've read the two Pep books with you know his name, Dan, the guy who wrote the books in conjunction with him.
I can't think of his name, but I know the books you're referring to.
Yeah, they were very, very good, and you do get a bit of insight to him as a person, and you love, you know, I love that he's such an independent thinker and all of that, but. In management setups I've been involved in, where I've been the manager, be it at Galway or Wexford, or even in what I'm doing at the moment with the hurling, right? One of the very first things I do is I would hammer home to the rest of the management team. Do not be afraid to pull me up when you think I'm way out of line here. Do question me. Throw it at me, come at me really, really hard. And if I argue back, don't then back down. Come at me harder again. And argue with me black and blue, and eventually, if I stick with it, fair enough, you go out, you stand in front of the team and you back me as if you fully believe in what I'm doing, but certainly don't ever feel that because I've suggested we have to go some way that everybody has to nod and smile. And do those people exist around Pep? And maybe they do. Maybe they questioned him, and he just dug his heels in. My fear would be that nobody properly questioned him when he decided to tell the rest of the management team this is the way we're going to go.
That is interesting. That's an interesting insight. Dan, you want to add anything to that before we move on?
No, I think it was Marty Perina, was it, that journalist? I think it was. They had the access. No, listen. I was on during the week, and there is nothing new to add to some respects. Like, sometimes the obvious answer to what went wrong is staring you there in the face, and I'd love some great football mind to come up with something else. I mean, what I would say is that, like, it's striking how much of the Champions League debate has turned into, you know, Pep got it wrong, and possibly not that much about Chelsea getting it right too. You know, and what, like, an amazing story that was. And even the fact that it was, I know we're going to talk about the Euros after 4, so like we'll come back to it. But, like, you know, even just the fact that, Havertz having his moment, Werner even caused problems, even though the jury is out on him, and how it's like we are heading into like a knockout football tournament now. Like the last 16 of the Euros onwards, we have the potential for some great ties, and it's just like a little lesson for how little decisions you can have your analysis and look at the squads and reach certain conclusions, but like the beauty of football is how like one 90-minute game plan can just change everything, and I think we might see a bit of that in this Euros, I think.
Just before we get to 4, Tottenham Hotspur, Antonio Conte, the buzz lasted 10 minutes. Shane, Pochettino, I think it seems to have got stuck in the mud We had a texter in here about Spurs as well on 53106. They need to clear out a lot of players who become cosy. It's a job nobody seems to want. Spurs want to do it on the cheap. That doesn't work if you want top four. I'm sceptical with the current regime. I think actually the club needs to be sold, because I think that they've taken it as far as they can from a football point of view. I think they've done an amazing job, Enoch, in terms of the stadium, the business, the training ground, the academy. It is a fantastic stadium, great business people, but the football product does not match that on the pitch, and that's the problem. The wage bill obviously doesn't compare as well, but to me they're back 7 years, 8 years now. Do you agree?
Yeah, unfortunately so. Look, I don't think it'll happen. I certainly don't think it'll happen in terms of them selling, because as a business model, I think the club is still working very, very well, or reasonably well for them. But no, in terms of just a fan, as me and you are, yeah, look, I think, I'd say we're back 7-8 years as soon as Harry walks out the door, which is almost definitely going to happen. Levy's reputation now well and truly precedes itself. I think that's been the biggest stumbling block. Comparisons could be drawn with Dan's hometown in terms of people at the club being a stumbling block in terms of trying to get in the right manager, possibly. The
RD, is this? Okay. I heard you talking about there. Sorry, I need to be more specific, Shane. All right, okay. Your old club, you mean? All right, okay, yeah.
Yes, RD Rovers.
The show sponsors, Paddy Power, seem to have a different favourite for the job every 24 or 48 hours, John. I every time you look, as you say, we've gone through so many different favourites to get the gig at this stage. I'm looking down at my screen here at the moment, and I didn't know until opening it that Eric Ten Hag is now the Paddy Power favourite to get the Spurs job. So he must be into double figures now with the amount of different favourites there has been to get the Spurs job. So it's become a bit of a circus. It really, really has become a bit of a circus over the last while. Obviously, there's the Pochettino angle. He seems to be second favourite at the moment in the betting anyway. I know some people, there's the whole thing, if you should never go back, and what would the relationship be like? Could himself and Levy repair the relationship and all that? If that kind of thing could be done, I would love to see him back there. It's just, look, I know we discussed it at the time when he got rid of John. I think you were in the same boat as myself. It seemed absolutely ludicrous at the time, and the passing of time hasn't done anything to show us up as been wrong at the time when we said it. But I would love to see him back there. I really, really would.
Okay, we got to take a break. We got to go to the news. Shane Keegan and Dan McDonnell. We're going to get our Euro preview underway after 4. Listeners out there, 53106, your predictions. Who's going to win? Give us your dark horse. Who's going to be the top goal scorer? Who's going to be the player of the tournament? Are you looking forward to the Euros? Do you want England to do well? Are you full of neighbourly cheer for our neighbours, or actually do you want to see them fall flat in their faces? England in the Euros, Scotland and Wales obviously as well. Holland 4, Ireland 0 in the hockey, in the women's hockey in the last quarter. Wexford 2-9, Antrim 10 points at half time in the hurling league. Antrim midfielder James McNaughton giving an exhibition of ball striking in that one, but Wexford are leading by 5 points, so 2-9 to Antrim's 10 points in the hurling. And this is OTB Football Saturday on News Talk. We're back with our Euros preview between 4 and 5. Don't go away.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie. This weekend on News Talk, we're looking ahead to Leia Healthcare's Brave New Era virtual event on June 10th to help business owners across Ireland understand the role of antigen testing in the safe return to the workplace. Find out more at newstalk.com/Leia Healthcare.
Welcome to Go Loud Jazz, the new home for jazz music in all its forms. Big band, bebop, smooth, and everything in between. Featuring a mix of new tunes and famous tracks by legendary artists, from Monk and Davis, Parker and Coltrane, to Ella and Billy. Go Loud Jazz. Fascinating rhythms. Download the Go Loud app now for free. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio, and music to your ears.
Afternoons are easy with InsureMyVan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with InsureMyVan's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit InsureMyVan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyvan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Kevin Sharkey here. If you love my paintings as much as I do and you'd like to see my new collection, please go to kevinsharkeyart.com or Merrion Square every Sunday, weather permitting. And from the 1st of June, the Sharkey Gallery in New Street Mall, Malahide, will be open 7 days a week. For more information, see kevinsharkeyart.com. We accept Bitcoin.
Hi, PJ here from PH Ross. Your bathroom is usually the first room you visit every morning, and its look and functionality could dictate your day. Whatever your budget, at PH Ross, we pride ourselves on helping you create a bathroom to brighten every day. We're really excited to show you around our newly restyled showroom. So let's begin. For the bathroom you've always dreamed of, or the bathroom you'd love to dream in, come visit us at PH Ross on the Old Harbour Road, Dublin 7.
A lot of people talk about keeping promises.
I promise I walk him every day. Dad, come on, it's me.
There's no way I'd watch the season finale without you. Promise.
It's called the Dulux Promise. A promise that our paint gives you the perfect colour, coverage and uniform finish, or we'll replace it. That's a promise. Selected products only and 10-litre limit. Claim within 6 months. Voucher issued for replacement product. Proof of purchase required. T's and C's apply. See dulux.ie/promise.
Ireland is recovering from the pandemic. Our society and economy continues to reopen as the vaccination programme makes a real difference in people's lives, and our economic recovery plan helps to get people back to work. We are getting there, and as we recover, we still need to stick to the public health measures. The government continues to advise against all non-essential travel. If you travel to Ireland from overseas, you must quarantine at home. You can stop quarantining if you get a negative PCR test taken no less than 5 days after arrival in Ireland. This PCR test is free. Travel to and from Great Britain is a particular concern due to new variants of COVID-19. If you arrive from Great Britain, you are reminded to quarantine at home and book your free PCR test. Let's all keep working together and keep moving forward. Go to gov.ie/COVID travel for more information. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
The new Dun Stores app puts better value at your fingertips, so you'll never miss out on savings. Your 10 off 50 grocery vouchers are always just a swipe away. You can also track and earn Value Club points and browse our latest grocery offers. And when you download it today, you'll receive a one-time 10 off 30 welcome voucher. So all you need to do is grab your phone and start saving. The new Dun Stores app, available now wherever you get your apps. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €30 or more.
Business is about to get moving again.
On your marks.
More nimble and more digital, it will be business accelerated.
Get set.
At Volkswagen Financial Services, we're ready.
Go!
With the funding solutions you need. Choose low-cost HP finance, the flexibility of PCP, or the convenience of leasing. On every Audi, Skoda, Seat, Volkswagen commercial vehicle, and now Cupra. Get ready for business at vwfs.ie/accelerated. Finance provided by Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland. Subject to lending criteria, terms and conditions apply.
Climate change will impact every business in Ireland, bringing new challenges, but new opportunities too. Is your business climate ready? Climate Ready from Skillnet Ireland helps prepare your business for a more sustainable future, offering subsidised upskilling designed around your needs. Take action today. Visit climateready.ie to see the full range of supports available. Skillnet Ireland, working with businesses throughout Ireland to build talent for the green economy. Skillnet Ireland is a business support agency of the Government of Ireland.
Let me tell you about Sky TV and broadband. You get the best of Sky TV. That's all the shows everyone's talking about. Like Mayor of Easttown and Your Honour are so good. Plus, Sky's best ever Wi-Fi with lightning fast speeds all around your home. So fill your home with our award-winning Sky TV and ultra-fast broadband from €55 a month for 12 months. Search Sky 55. New Sky customers only. Availability subject to location. TV and broadband sold separately. Minimum terms and further terms apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
Get the most out of your home with the new Home magazine from the Sunday Times. Our 32-page supplement will answer all your homemaking queries, including advice for buying or selling your house, alongside decorating tips, cooking and gardening. Pick up your copy of Home this weekend only in the Sunday Times, or visit thetimes.ie/join.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards National Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Suzanne Byrne. Health officials have confirmed there have been 416 new cases of COVID-19 reported today. There are currently 74 patients in hospital with the virus, while 29 are in intensive care. Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe has said it's important that the needs of small and large, developed and developing countries are met after G7 countries pledged to commit to a global minimum corporate tax rate of at least 15%. It's aimed at preventing tech giants from exploiting tax loopholes. Ireland's rate of 12.5% is one of the lowest in the world and has contributed to companies such as Facebook and Google making Ireland the base of their European operations. The move now puts pressure on Ireland to increase its rate. UCC economics lecturer and former chair of the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, Seamus Coffey, says smaller nations may well take issue with the G7 deal.
From an Irish perspective, and from the perspective of many small countries, they may see this as impacting their tax sovereignty, that if smaller countries want to use different rates, they might feel they should be entitled to do so. Could this be the larger countries who already have significant advantages looking to negate the advantages that some small countries might have?
Health Minister Stephen Donnelly says the public disorder on Dublin streets last night was thuggish and completely unacceptable. It follows another night where large crowds of young people gathered to socialise in the South William Street, Stephen's Green and Temple Bar areas. Glass bottles were among the missiles thrown at Gardaí. 14 people were arrested and one officer was injured. However, these people on South William Street have mixed views.
There's a balance between the government and the council giving some facilities, but also people having the cop on.
You're dealing with Irish people. Give them a pedestrianised street and alcohol. What are they going to do?
Meanwhile, Stephen Donnelly has received his first dose of a COVID vaccine. The 45-year-old received the vaccine at a leisure centre in Greystones in County Wicklow. 100 civilians have been killed by armed attackers in a village in Burkina Faso. No group has claimed responsibility. However, the West African country is facing a growing wave of jihadist violence. And elsewhere, Microsoft has blamed accidental human error for its search engine Bing failing to produce any results for Tankman on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protests on Friday. Microsoft has been accused of censoring the image and cooperating with China. That's your news update. It's just gone 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. We're listening to customers so we can improve our services.
A mainly dry but cool night tonight with prolonged clear spells and isolated showers, lows of between 5 and 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
You are welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5, joined by the Irish Independent football correspondent Daniel McDonnell and the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan to talk about the beautiful game. Our coverage thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. 53106 for your texts. You can tweet us at Off the Ball. You can listen on News Talk. You can watch on the social channels for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Just to go through some scores in the Women's National League: Shelbourne 5, Athlone 10-0, and Cork City 0, Galway 2. The hockey team have lost 4-0 to Holland, the Irish women's hockey team, and Wexford 2-10, Antrim 12 points is the latest score from the hurling league. A text in here of 53106. Kenny is a League of Ireland manager. That's his level. He's not an international manager. You can't jump from winning leagues with Dundalk to managing an international team. 1+ is the great to see Jamie McGrath, a local legend, involved, says Paul and Athboy. That is his view. A lot of people would have different views as well on that one, but keep them coming to 53106. We're going to spend the rest of the show talking about the Euros. We can't wait. 51 games, 11 cities. Italy against Turkey to kick it all off next Friday. We finally have a European Championship. Dan, I'm sure you've had the privilege of being at European Championship games, obviously some for work, and but I'm sure you've been able to have a great few moments along the way. What stands out for you?
Yeah, God, yeah. Like I've been trying to think like the last 3 European Championships. All right, it's actually just listen, it's so weird not to be going to it actually in a way. But I mean, this is the times we live in. Yeah, like I mean, I suppose I really enjoyed France. I have to say, probably because Ireland did okay in it, and it did sort of deliver, a couple of moments, covering Ireland at a major tournament, because I would have been very excited about 2012 in Poland, and obviously that was just a bit of I didn't particularly enjoy that, to be honest, and there was a lot of sort of FAI stuff going on, and it wasn't necessarily a great experience. But take the Irish stuff out of it. Euro 2008 for me was the first major tournament I properly went and covered. And actually, I think it's a sort of an underrated tournament when people talk about, say, good tournaments of recent memory. I think like Euro 2000 is probably a very high bar when people talk about Euros in terms of, it had a bit of everything. But I really enjoyed Euro 2008 because it was the breakthrough of Spain, from being probably the great underachievers and, the sort of the losers of international football in recent times to actually like the start of that great team, really like announcing themselves on that stage. That was a great experience. And there was like some great game, even Turkey, who had that comeback against the Czech Republic with Nihat. I was at that game in Geneva, I think it was. They got 2 goals in the last, I think, 5, 6, 7 minutes. Terrific. And then they went all the way to the semi-finals. Germany were trying to be reborn around that time as well too. And they were almost starting their cycle towards becoming a better side again. Like they were one of my standout memories in terms of actually going in the flesh, actually attending it. But listen, it is a great competition, but it's a competition that has changed so much. When you think of Ireland qualifying in Euro 88 with 8 teams, and it was sort of a really elite event, whereas obviously the modern Euros is a different animal now, with the 24-team competition. I never liked the spread across the cities. It's sort of redundant now in COVID times anyway, the way things have panned out. But in many respects, it's heightened it. To me, a major tournament should always be about like this central hub where everyone is in this one country sharing, or maybe 2 countries, sharing the experience and traveling around. And to me, like a major tournament spent in an airport isn't really the proper experience. Now, obviously, we're not going to see too much travel between venues now anyway, the way things have panned out. And of course, it has been diluted slightly, by adding more teams into it, much as, it probably gives countries like ourselves better chances to qualify for these tournaments, which is no bad thing. But I actually think it's like I am looking now that it's got closer. I haven't been looking forward to it at all, to be blunt, to be honest. But actually, just the last couple of days, you're reading into it and the groups and the permutations, and you're looking at the schedule and you're thinking, okay, yeah, this could be pretty good actually. And the fact that there will be limited spectators at most of the games, I mean, that basically is what cost Dublin, that we couldn't guarantee it. But the fact that there will be atmosphere at the games, I think at least it should make it an enjoyable spectacle for us. And actually, I think there's some decent groups in there. For all of there's a dilution element to it, there's still some strong groups. So I think from the start we should have some really good games.
Yeah, the preview supplements as well. I love them. I think they always get me going reading the preview supplements and kind of trying to work out, because I'm a crystal ball head, who's going to win and who's going to be top scorer and who's going to be the player of the tournament and who's going to be the shock contenders. Shane, what does it mean to you, the Euros?
Yeah, look, I suppose.
Were you in Poland or France?
I'll tell you, John, I had my tickets got for Poland. Was ready to rock. And then Mick Wallace offered me the Wexford Youths job, which put the nail in that one for me. So it did. I sold me tickets to a good friend of mine here in my hometown in Rathdowney, who went off in my place and drank himself into oblivion in my place. Fair play to him. Probably my favourite one would be Euro 96, I suppose, really, to be honest with you. I suppose, I don't know whether that's to do with the age that I was at that stage, being kind of 15, kind of is your peak years of being obsessed with football, I think, or whether the fact that it was in England and obviously, look, Spurs supporter, and you had the Gaza moment and all of that kind of stuff. I thought it was, that's probably the one that sticks in my memory most. And like Dan, a week ago, I would have had very little knowledge or very little interest in it, really, to be honest with you. And the next thing, exactly as you said, the supplements start coming out and the talk starts to get ramped up, and all of a sudden you're licking your lips and you can't wait for it to start. Yeah, Euro 88 was such a huge event for the country. Like beating England in our first major tournament in our first game, like in Stuttgart, was like it's indelibly linked in the history books. And we should have lost England. We should have beat Russia, so the Soviet Union at the time, who we played off the park, and we should have probably drawn against the Dutch, who we lost to. So it was a strange the way it all worked out. But they were the 2 finalists, the Soviet Union and Holland.
I just remember so vividly as a 9-year-old. And then Euro 2000 I thought was an amazing tournament. Golden goals, Zidane at his peak, the Abel Xavier handball, the Dutch completely losing the head in the semi-final against Italy with all his penalty misses, England flopping against Romania, loads of goals, and that Alfonso goal, Spain-Yugoslavia 4-3, and we all have our own kind of memories of it. So what we're going to do over the next hour, we're going to profile the main contenders, pick a dark horse, give our predictions from Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan. If you want to get involved, folks, 53106. Shane, we're going to start with you on the world champions, France. Give us a synopsis of France.
Yeah, I think they're the team to beat, John. I heard the lads chatting earlier, Myler and Dunn. And I'd agree. I definitely think they're the team to beat. I mean, they're just so consistent, so settled. I mean, it's amazing Deschamps would be heading into his 10th year. If he's still there next year, he'd be there for his 10th year in charge, which is a good sign, I suppose, in itself. So he's, he is a guy who knows the strengths and weaknesses of that side inside out. The players know him inside out. There's going to be no surprises there. There's no figuring anything out as they go along. There's been tweaks, championship on championship, Euros into World Cup into Euros. There's been tweaks with the French, changing maybe 2 to 3, but by and large it's been pretty much the same group the whole way, and I think that'll really, really work for him. I suppose the big roll of the dice from his perspective is bringing Benzema back in. It's a big call. I mean, based purely on ability, it's a no-brainer. He's had a fantastic season for Real. He's been consistently excellent for Real, really, let's be honest, for a long time. But even by his own standards, I think he had one of his most impressive seasons this year. But obviously, there's a lot of reasons behind why he was let go in the first place, and bringing him back, is that going to cause disharmony? I think that's the key question over it. I think if everybody's okay with him being back on the scene and he's bedded back into things nicely, I think they're 100% the team to beat. You look at the quality all over the field. They've also got a lot of strength and depth. Probably, Jerry, the only one I'd say, I know he's very much the in vogue player at the moment, and rightly so, but you'd look at Kante and you'd say, okay, if something happened there, what will they do? Because he's still an all-action hero for France, obviously, in the way that he is at Chelsea as well, but he has to be even more defensively disciplined. He'll still run, but he can't afford to bomb forward with France. He is the one who allows everybody else to go and play. And I don't know if they've got a direct replacement for that. Pogba will be beside him, and look, as we've seen time and time again, he just seems to be a different player in that blue jersey than he is at club level, that's for sure. And look, all of that is before we even get into the conversation about Mbappe, who, I know we'll come back to it later on, but I'd imagine he's very much at the forefront in terms of, who's going to be the player of the tournament, who's going to be in with a chance of golden boots, and all of that kind of thing. I would be leaning towards him as likely being the player who will most light up this tournament. I think he's fantastic to watch. I really, really do. I think he's absolutely fantastic to watch. I think they're going to take serious stopping.
Dan, England.
Yeah, England. I mean, this is an interesting one. Actually, I should have mentioned Euro 96 earlier when Shane mentioned it. I mean, that is actually, for me, probably still, it's somebody you remember. And we have our relationship with England, and do we want them to do well or not? And I'll be honest, I'm more so in the not category a lot of the time, however immature that can make me. But it's a personal preference thing. And actually, I have to say, maybe that was born out of the hype that was generated around certain teams in the past. And actually, I think that the recent England teams, it's easier for me anyway. It's been a lot easier to warm to them. But actually, for all of, maybe people have different views on that. I was talking about this with someone last night. If you want a sort of a feel good YouTube watch for 6-7 minutes, particularly if you want to, if you miss stadiums and you miss the buzz, you miss the atmosphere. I think it's on YouTube somewhere, of the BBC coverage before the semi-final against Germany in 1996, where Des Lynam basically said, I think it was Des Lynam who presented anyway, that BBC just made the decision, rather than have talking heads or pundits or whatever or an over-the-top montage. They just said for 5-6 minutes before the game, let's, without any commentary, go to the crowd and let the crowd deliver the atmosphere. And it was the whole crowd singing 3 lines and then 1 or 2 other songs. And it's out there on YouTube, and it's brilliant. Like, and you know, for all our sort of our complicated relationship with our neighbours, wanting them to do well or not, in some respects, I think a Euro 96 and the buzz created by the home side was actually pretty special. And you almost get a bit of a buzz watching it, even if ultimately you probably wanted Germany to win on penalties. So, you know, make sense of that one. But as England now go, like, to me, it can really go both ways for them here, because you mentioned earlier, John, at the start, how you love looking into your crystal ball. And this is how we sometimes approach major tournaments. Like, you get your wall chart and you sort of plot a route for your team, and you can find an angle that way. But the 24-team Euros is so convoluted in a way that the third place teams, where they come into the equation, you know, they can spin the draw in any direction. You know, particularly that really tough group that has France, Germany, and Portugal in it. And this is the point, you know, for England here, that even if England win their group with Croatia, Czech Republic, and Scotland, which isn't certain that they will, they're going to face one of those teams in the round of 16. You know, or if they come second in their group, they potentially face Spain. You know, so as much as, like, you can assess England on paper and say, yes, this looks to be a very good squad, lots of attacking talent. I think the obvious concern for England would be that there's a lot resting on whether Harry Maguire is fit, and possibly even to a lesser extent if Jordan Henderson is fit. And they seem to be, you know, have different ideas in their head about their shape and how they might react if Maguire is out or not. And it's possible that while they are stacked with talent, they have a lot of talent in the same area of the pitch, and trying to figure out how to accommodate, say, Foden and Grealish and, you know, I suppose Rashford, and a lot. I mean, Harry Kane will obviously play, but you're just going to talk about the players in and around them, behind them, Sterling, that, like, you can see how they could hit a roadblock at some point in this tournament, and even defensively they have stuff to sort out. But it is going to be fascinating watching them. I think they're probably, for our perspective, they are still always the most interesting storyline, and they do have this incentive to create a Euro 96 vibe here, because if they do win their group, like, all of their games can be at home with the exception of the quarterfinal. So they have this opportunity to build this momentum, but they play Croatia Sunday week, and honestly, they've been here before. And I don't think we're necessarily covering Croatia in this, but Croatia are very much still a settled side.
They can be a dark horse as well.
Yeah, they have a lot of the elements from 2018, where they did a job on England, obviously, in the semi-finals and deservedly went through. So I don't know. I think England, like, they have the potential to ignite, because of the attack and talent that they have. But they're going to be, you know, they could also find themselves in a very, very pressurised situation in the tournament very early. And we don't know necessarily how they're going to handle it, because in Russia in 2018, there was a little bit of for once, there was no expectation around England, and they sort of thrived off that in a strange way. Whereas this time, there's loads of expectation. And it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I know we're running through teams, but I don't know what you lads think about England. I think it can really swing both ways.
Centre halves and keeper.
That's an issue, yeah.
Also, is Southgate the man? I'm still not. I think Southgate was great in 18, great motivator. Like, the players really seemed to be united, but they had a nice run. They Colombia and they Sweden, and they weren't really tested until that. Like, the midfield was lacking, and I think the midfield is all right now. But the rest of it, the keeper and the defenders, like, just to win the tournament. Like, we're talking about England winning the tournament here. We're not talking about England being contenders again, semi-final. We're talking about them winning the tournament. Stones, Maguire, and the keeper, and the game management. That's the questions I'd have.
They're like, to get far in this competition, they're going to have, because I mentioned that the permutations that draw the way could swing. Like, you know, they're going to have to win a knockout tie that, you know, against an opponent of a calibre that they haven't beaten in a major tournament in recent memory. Now, listen, I know a lot of these younger players don't carry that baggage, and like, they do. I've forgotten loads of players like Mason Mount, and he's just won a Champions League. You know, like, they do, like, they have got their act together in recent years, England, in terms of their production of talent at underage level. Like, they now have sort of an academy structure that has that is bringing, that is producing players that are of a standard to go with the financial power and the wealth and the sort of the strength of the Premier League, that they are producing like really properly elite players, and maybe they're not burdened by the failures of the past like maybe other players were, but they're going to have to do something they haven't done, to really go far, because their run in 2018 was, it was quite favourable. So that there is a question mark they need to answer there.
2 words, lads. Jordan Pickford.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That could be it.
Yeah, if he plays. I got Portugal, the champions. It's kind of hard to, Portugal are the champions here. Sometimes sometimes we can forget that. I think they actually have got a great chance. I think they're a better squad now than they were in 2016 when they won in France with that kind of shock 1-0 win with Ader's goal in Paris. Generally a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 from Fernando Santos, their manager. Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously the talisman, going to be playing in his 5th tournament. That'll be a record. 9 goals in the Euros in 21 games. 31 goals in qualifiers. He's 36 years of age now. Can never forget his hilarious jostling of his manager on the sideline in that game, in that final against France a few years ago. And he got the trophy he deserved for his great ability. So they often play with a holding player, so Danilo Pereira or William Carvalho. But then it's the array of attacking talent that's come in. You've got João Felix up front. You've got Bruno Fernandes of Manchester United, Diogo Jota of Liverpool, and obviously we now know the player of the year in England in the last season, Ruben Dias at centre-back. So they're in a group, what they call the group of death, with France, Germany and Hungary. If they finish second in that, they will meet England if England win their group in the last 16 at Wembley. I think if they can negotiate the early landmines, I think Portugal could go very far in the tournament, because they don't have any kind of insecurities about winning it. In 2004 they got beaten by Greece, but they've won the Euros now, and I think they could go close. I think, Shane, you got Germany now?
Yep, Germany is right. I should mention, I don't know how I forgot when we were talking about our Euro memories. John, I had a tenner on a scorecast in 2004, 150-1, Karaskidis to score first and Greece to win 1-0. So that should actually be my greatest Euros memory, that's for sure.
Fair play.
Yeah, a nice one. Germany, look, it's you just touched on it, this group of death, John. It's amazing that one of those 3 sides, France, Portugal or Germany, could be gone. I know 2 third-place teams do get through, but when they're playing against such strong teams, chances are that, the likes of a Germany, a Portugal or France could potentially lose to the other 2 teams, and then they won't be able to get enough points to get out of the group. So it's incredible that one of those 3, because there are probably 3 teams in the top 5 heading into the tournament. Joachim Low obviously is stepping down after it. Will that be a pro or a con? You can make the argument either way in terms of whether it'll bind the players or whether the players will not give less of themselves, but maybe not be as focused if they don't feel that they need to impress the manager for future tournaments. Again, another big about turn in that he's brought back Matt Hummels and Muller, obviously. 2 fellas who I think he pretty much cast adrift completely only maybe a year or more ago. So that's a big about turn in him. Look, I think in terms of the group stages, I think they've all 3 group games in Germany. So that can't but be a huge help to them. And therefore you would expect them to get out of the group. But are they as impressive as in previous years to go really far? I don't know. They've got a lot in the centre of the field. Kimmich, Gundogan, Kai Havertz maybe a little bit further forward. They've certainly got a lot of talent in that area. But I just look at the overall balance of the team. I mean, obviously, Timo Werner, he's probably going to still be a starting player with them. Now, look, maybe he'll revert back to the player he was before he arrived at Chelsea, and if he does, that might give them a chance again. So it might, but I just don't. It would be very, very rare that you'd look at a tournament and say that you'd be surprised to see Germany make the last 4. But this time round, I probably would. I probably would be surprised to see them make the last 4. I mean, it's only, I think, a little less than a year ago. They lost 6-0 to Spain. I mean, that's absolutely unheard of for them. Absolutely unheard of for them. So I don't think they're the powerhouses that they have been in previous years, John.
Daniel, you have Scotland next.
Yeah, the Scots. I mean, this is big for them. I mean, you mentioned about previews and supplements and stuff. I should mention that we have, in the Indo, we have one coming out on Monday. And I was actually looking at the Scots for that. I spoke to a couple of people, Irish lads in Scotland or who had played in Scotland. And I really like Scotland have been, in terms of these islands, like have been the losers of international football in the 21st century. Like it's absolutely ridiculous that Scotland haven't been at a major tournament since 1998, since like that time where they played Brazil. It was like the first day I did my junior start, and I'm bloody nearly 40 now. So like, Scotland have not, like, for a country that is football mad, per capita can have the highest attendances, and actually like has an international team that can be very well supported. It's sort of amazing that they've failed again and again and again and again. And like when we were in the same 2016 Euros group, they got a bit carried away, and I had a bit of back and forth with some of the lads covering the Scots. They thought this was finally their time, and they obviously messed it up, as they tend to do. But actually, in saying that, I'm delighted they're back, and it was actually a real good feel-good story when they beat Serbia on penalties, because again, like, there's quite a lot in the characters in the Scottish group that you think you can warm to. Now, they're in for them. They're in a difficult group. They have the England game, but as Shane mentioned, like, there's obviously a variable with these finals that some teams have loads of home games, and their other games against Croatia and the Czech Republic, they will have home advantage for them, which is a factor. And they have good players. I mean, it's no coincidence that it's happened now when you have a Scottish team that has Andy Robertson, it has Kieran Tierney, it has Scott McTominay, who may have his doubters at Manchester United, but he's still a Manchester United player. We'd love to have a Manchester United starter, around our squad. Then you have the Celtic lads, you've Christie, McGregor, and you look through it, like, and they have a lot of good players. Their slight concern would be in defensive areas where they're not great. There's a feeling they probably would play a back three to accommodate, as they have in the autumn, to accommodate both Robertson and Tierney in the same side. But one at the left centre back and then wing back. They have Steve Clarke as the manager, Stephen Reid as the assistant manager, and I actually spoke to Gary Dicker, who would have worked with Steve Clarke. Very understated, not one for hype, very well organised. Will just keep things below par. Will not be like, was it Ali McLeod who had the big boast back in the day in the World Cup that like made the Scottish team the laughing stock with their bold claims of how they would do. He'll keep things very low key, and like they have good midfield players, and they will have a good game plan to approach these matches. The one area that they've had issues is in the striking department, the goal scoring department, and they've played the eligibility game there because they've got Shea Adams from Southampton, who's only a recent convert, and they have the Australian-born striker, I think it's Lyndon Dykes, isn't it?
Yeah.
That they're still, like, that's their issue, but they have like good midfield players and a good age profile in their team, and they could get a bit of a buzz going because it's been so long. Like, I would not rule them out from being very competitive in their group. And again, you have the chance for 3 to go through here, so you might just need to win one game to open things up. But like, they are in a tough group relative to, I think, some of the other options that would have been available. But I'm just delighted they're back, really, to be fair to them, because Ireland have been to 3 tournaments. Sorry, 3 tournaments since Scotland have last been to one, and Scotland is a much more developed football country than ours.
Horses are down for the start for the Epsom Derby. We got an Irish favourite, Aidan O'Brien's Bolshoi Ballet. Aidan looking to win his 9th Derby. His son Joseph also trains a horse in there. Southern Lights, an outsider. And Jim Bulger's got McSwiney with Kevin Manning on him, and he's about a 6 or 7 to 1 shot. Hurricane Lane, second favourite for Charlie Appleby and William Buick. We will keep you up to date on probably one of the best races in flat racing in the world. 1780, the first Epsom Derby, and a really prestigious race, and maybe Aidan O'Brien can give Ireland a win. I've got Belgium just before the break. I saw a lot of them at the 2018 World Cup. They were very good, but just not good enough to beat France. Eden Hazard, I thought, was their key player back then. He's declined, obviously. Kevin De Bruyne has progressed into one of the best players in the world. We have Romelu Lukaku scoring, how many goals is it now? 24 goals for Inter Milan to win the title this season. 36 in his last 31 games for the Red Devils. Yuri Tielemans has flourished with Leicester, as we know, in the FA Cup final, that winning goal. But as a whole, he's an excellent midfielder. They're in a group with Denmark, Finland and Russia. Their manager, Roberto Martinez, often plays a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3. My concern, I would notice as a Spurs fan, their defence. Vertonghen, Alderweireld are not as good as they were. Do they have the defenders to cope with the elite teams at the business end of the competition? I think they'll get through their group, but I think Belgium are flat-track bullies, and I think they're going to be found out deep into the competition. That's my view on Belgium. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with the Derby result and the other main contenders for Euro 2020, which has been held in 2021, with Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan on Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. We're back after this.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
On the latest Tech Talk, we'll hear how Dublin City Council is continuing to transform the capital into a smart city. Derek Riley will talk about electrifying your classic car. Plus, we'll learn all about Huawei's operating system, Harmony OS.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to Think. Visit thinkpm.ie.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now, or tune in this evening at 5.
On News Talk.
At Experts Electrical Stores nationwide, live healthy like a Bosch with up to €100 cashback on selected home appliances. Hygienic washing with a Bosch Allergy Plus washing machine. Fresher food with a Bosch VitaFresh fridge freezer. Smarter, cleaner kitchen with a Bosch Pyrolytic self-cleaning oven. Up to €100 cashback. Shop Bosch at Experts Electrical Stores and expert.ie.
Fleetwood Weatherclad paint has been protecting the exterior of Irish homes for over 40 years.
We engineer, test and manufacture all our paints in Virginia, County Cavan. Fleetwood Weatherclad is made in Ireland for Irish weather.
In fact, we are so confident in the quality of Fleetwood Weatherclad, it now comes with a lifetime guarantee for as long as you live in your home.
Who would give you a lifetime guarantee on their exterior paint?
Fleetwood would. Ask for Fleetwood Weatherclad and visit fleetwood.ie to find your local stockist.
You know what? Whoever said that nothing in life is free is wrong. My mate, One Leg Larry, got a free ticket to a crocodile enclosure last year. Although, up until that point, we just call him Larry. It's probably a bad example, but what about your PRSI entitlement at Specsavers? That gives you a free eye test and free glasses from their €69 range.
And now get free hearing aids with PRSI too. Book an appointment or find out more at specsavers.ie.
We look forward to welcoming you to our Plaza motorway service stations. Quality food and forecourts with Supermax, Papa John's, Super Subs, Bewley's Barista, Max Place Deli and Spar. Come for the fuel, stay for the food. The Plaza Group, the perfect pit stop on your journey. Now open at the Portlaoise Plaza.
Inspiration can ignite in a multitude of ways. When we travel to new places, experience new technologies, when we feel more connected to the world around us. Now is the time to inspire your future, to drive an Audi. Discover the range of offers available on the 212 Audi A6, Q2 and fully electric e-tron, online or at your local Audi dealership. Audi. Future is an attitude.
This is an important announcement from the Department of Social Protection. If you have been in receipt of the COVID-19 pandemic unemployment payment and are now returning to work, this message is for you. You must ensure that you stop your payment on your first day back at work. The simplest way to do this is online at www.mywelfare.ie. For more information, visit gov.ie/DSP COVID-19 or call the Income Support Helpline on 1890 800 024. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
It's been a long year, but at last it's here. The massive Easy Living Interiors Summer Sale. We've reopened our doors with new styles in all stores and savings that are off the scale. Gorgeous sofas and chairs, tables, beds and homewares, designs that are stylish and clever. We can't wait to show you round and the bargains to be found in the best Easy Living Summer Sale ever. Easy Living Interiors. Cork, Waterford, Navan, Naas, Sandyford, Drogheda and Wexford. Sale now on.
This is Water Safety Ireland with a very important message. As we all adhere to social distancing, please remember to swim in lifeguarded waterways.
Lifeguards are there every weekend in June and full-time in July and August. They are there to protect. Let them be there for you. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Watch the SSE Airtricity Premier Division, First Division and Women's National League action live with the brand new LOI TV Season Pass. The League of Ireland's exclusive HD streaming service returns with live commentary at home, on the go or wherever you are. Sign up now for your LOI TV Premier Division Pass from just €79, First Division Pass from only €49 and Women's National League matches for free. Go to loitv.ie for more.
Summer's here. We all want to enjoy it safely. And one of the best ways is with our MP COVID-19 self-test from MyBio. With results in just 15 minutes, it's simple, accurate and perfect to use before visiting relatives, meeting friends, heading to training or returning to the office. For peace of mind this summer, pick up our MP COVID-19 self-test. Now available in Apple Green and Circle K stores nationwide and at mybio.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Andrew, welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5, talking about the Euros. A beautiful game coverage thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. Joined by the Irish Independent's football correspondent, Dan McDonnell, and the coach, Shane Keegan, to speak about it. Women's National League results: Shelbourne 5, Athlone 10-0, Cork City 0, Galway 2, Wexford 216, Antrim 120 is the latest score in the second half. Matthew O'Hanlon shown a straight red for Limerick, for Wexford. Neil McMahon sent off for Antrim as we head into injury time. Davy Fitzgerald was sent to the stands in the first half. Adayar! The reason I was distracted there, 16-1 winner of the Derby. Adayar has won it, an English winner. So that is quite a straightforward winner in the Derby as well. Adayar coming home. Adam Kirby riding for Charlie Appleby. So a 16-1 winner. The horse owned by Godolphin. Charlie Appleby trained, and Adam Kirby is the winning jockey. So Adayar wins the flat race, the Epsom Derby there. Lads, just go back to the Euros. Spain. Shane Keegan, what's your assessment of their chances, given you've done your upper while?
Yeah, look, I suppose somewhat similar to Germany in that you'd imagine they should go fairly well. I mean, that group should be a piece of cake to them. Sweden, Poland and Slovakia and all three games in Spain. So they should certainly walk out of that group. But again, I'm not so sure if we're going to see them in the last four. John, I don't see the stars of yesteryear there anymore. I don't see anybody of your Iniesta, your David Silva, your shabby kind of quality. Busquets is still there himself, but obviously a far lesser player than he once was. Again, look, they've got quite a bit of young talent, and there are fellas who could really, really kind of emerge for Spain in this tournament. One that we've seen glimpses of, obviously, at City is Fernando Torres. He looks like he's actually going to be a starter for them. So he does. He's that highly regarded and has been playing that well for them. But, again, there's not the massive names that we're so used to in the Spanish team over the past. They've got problems in the goal as well. Obviously, De Gea has lost his place at United and looks like he might lose it with Spain as well. One that I thought was an interesting one, Dan was talking about eligibility earlier, is they brought in Laporte. I'm not really sure exactly what the rules are or how you manage to naturalise a fella in that manner, but he will be a big addition to him, particularly when there's no Sergio Ramos there. No Real Madrid player at all, John. I'm sure you're probably aware of it, but that has to be a first in any Spanish squad for a major tournament, I would have thought. Absolutely crazy. Look, they'll have an absolute abundance of centre midfield options, as they always do. I mean, Del Bosque won his tournaments probably starting 6 centre midfielders in 6 players who are naturally centre midfielders in his starting 11, which used to be crazy. It mightn't be that far, mightn't see that many of them this time round. But I just think, again, a lot of a certain kind of player, but not the real out-and-out attacking threat in the final third that they'd require. And like we've said with England, if you don't have a really solid keeper, I don't see how you go and win a major tournament. Dan, you have Wales next in the Euros.
Yeah, we've we've seen a lot of Wales, haven't we, in recent times? Probably too much of Wales. And like they are, like, I mean, they did have that amazing run to the semi-final in 2016. Like, they are still, I mean, in some respects, there's still a reliance on a certain core of players, or more to the point, like they're elite players. I mean, so much of Wales probably still relies around how Gareth Bale performs. And to be honest, whatever questions have been asked about Gareth Bale in recent times, he still loves playing for Wales. Like, he really cares about playing for Wales. You could almost say that, you know, is it possible in 2021 has his whole focus really been about Wales and the Euros? You know, not necessarily what's first people want to hear, but you kind of wonder, is he trying to peak towards it? Because it is something where he is the main man and he has been involved in some great moments. Now, there's more to them than Bale, but obviously I think the group they're in is, again, reasonably difficult. And they've also, like, they've got to go and play a couple of games in Baku as well, so it's going to be a bit of a strange one for them in terms of a major tournament experience to travel. But you've got Bale, you've got Ramsey and Joe Allen that are all over, you know, they're now all in their 30s. They have Harry Wilson, who we've seen against Ireland can be a very effective player, good from dead ball situations. And at the other end of the pitch, like, Rodon has come through as well in terms of defensively. You know, they would have probably had Ashley Williams as a sort of a talismanic figure there in the past. And they're fine. Like, they have a reasonable squad, but you just kind of wonder. And listen, they've had all the Ryan Giggs situation. Robert Page takes over there as well. They've had just a bit of instability there, and probably hasn't been the smoothest prep. And they're okay. Like, they have, like, some very good players and then a reasonable core of players. And to be fair, they've always capped young players in recent years, Wales. So they have a really good understanding together as a group. But I don't know. I think I can't see them emulating their achievement. And I think part of the reason, I think their group is pretty tough. They're in a group of Turkey, Italy and Switzerland, Group A, which I think is actually decent. And we might touch on that in sort of dark horses. And it could be harder for Wales than it was previously. But in this instance, if Bale ignites, they could prove that prediction wrong.
Okay, that's Wales from Dan McDonnell. I'll go to the Netherlands. First of all, their manager, Frank de Boer, it's been a mixed career in management. He did well at Ajax, won a few Dutch titles, but then 10 weeks at Crystal Palace, 85 days at Inter Milan, came in for Ronald Koeman, who obviously jumped ship to Barcelona after the qualifiers. Virgil van Dijk is injured, not only defensively, but from a leadership point of view. What will the impact of that be? Probably not positive. Matthijs de Ligt and Stefan de Vrij have done well in Italy, but they're not Van Dijk. The formation is fluid. Frenkie de Jong, the playmaker, Barcelona's Frenkie. You got Liverpool fans would know Gini van Aldum as captain up front. The former Man United player, Memphis Depay, he's in form, 20 goals for Lyon in the French league in the season just gone. Another player, Wolfsburg's Wout Weghorst, also among the goals. Not a young player, but 20 goals in the Bundesliga. They do have a straightforward group: Austria, Ukraine and North Macedonia. But do I believe they're good enough to win it? No, I don't. I think with all big championships, maybe the Greases aside, you know, you need the Rijkaards, the Van Bastens, the Hullets. You need elite quality players like France would have and maybe Portugal would have. But to Holland have it in significant quantities, I would probably doubt it. So I don't think they're going to win it, but I do think they'll get through their group, and we'll see what happens from then. Italy, Shane, do you see them as potential winners?
Could they go and win it? I think they could be thereabouts. Yeah, I think we could see them in the last four. I mean, what they've done, John, is they've absolutely hit rock bottom and then bounced back very, very impressively. Obviously, it was incredible to think that they actually failed to qualify for the last World Cup, really. But Roberto Mancini has done a brilliant job since he's gone in there. I mean, the results are, if you're going on form, the results are incredible. They won every single one of their games, I think, in the World Cup qualifiers, and have done really, really well since then as well. So their form is impeccable, amazing. I mean, we talked about Alphonse Lima earlier, so we did. Amazing that Panucci and Chiellini are still the centre back partnership, and unquestionably still the centre back partnership, and will probably go into the tournament as one of the main reasons why they still have a chance. Their understanding and their ability to keep performing. They've both gone over 100 caps now. So that will give them a really, really strong base, and behind them the keeper from Milan, I can never quite sure how you pronounce his name, but he really impresses me anytime I've seen him. Really, really impressive keeper, and I think he would be, in the top couple of keepers, in the same way that I've argued against England and Spain because they don't have a good keeper. I think he is fantastic, and he will certainly give them a chance along with that centre back pairing. Again, good in midfield. I think they tick all the right boxes, John, in the first 2/3 of the field. I think the question marks are going to be over the final third of the field. I mean, Immobile he's a centre forward who, in club form, his club form should have him in the position where he's heading into this tournament as one of the absolute favourites to finish as top goal scorer. He's gone over 20 again this season. I think last season he went over 30. But for some reason, he just doesn't seem to do it as much in an Italian jersey. I think his record is like 1-4, although of recent it seems to be a little bit closer to 1-2. So maybe he finally is kind of finding his feet at international. I think if he was to click and show the club form that he's consistently shown over the last 3-4 seasons, now I think they'd be right thereabouts. But I see them as semi-finalists, and I see them in with a decent shout.
Gianluigi Donnarumma, I think, is the keeper.
Good man. I like your Italian, John. Very good.
I've never been to Italy, but that's another question for another day. Adiyar 16-1 has won the derby for Charlie Appleby and jockey Adam Kirby. Mojo Star second at 50-1, and Hurricane Lane third at a price, I believe, of around 6-1. The Irish didn't really feature in this one. Disappointment from Bolshoi Ballet, the favourite, was out of the frame. Dark horses, Dan. I see Denmark being mentioned are all favourites in certain places. Croatia, as you said, reached the World Cup final. Turkey have their supporters as well. Anybody that catches your eye among those or others?
Yeah, I think Turkey are interesting. I think, for dark horses, you almost need to look at the permutations again.
Yeah.
And you have this situation where the runner-up in Group A plays the runner-up in Group B in the round of 16. And the winners of that are sort of in the same, quarter of the draw as the Group C winners, who you would probably expect to be the Netherlands. But the Netherlands, to me, aren't like massively formidable. So you have a situation where like the runners up in those groups could have half a chance. And you're expecting Italy to win Group A and Belgium to win Group B. But of course it could flip, and teams might fancy being in that neck of the woods. But I'm sort of looking to A and B. And that's where you've got Turkey, and that's where you've got Denmark. I mean, we know about Denmark, they just have an ability to be difficult to beat, but they also have some creative talent. And again, they know what they are, and they have a reasonably settled group. But I think Turkey are sort of interesting. Just looking through their squad, they've got back a manager who led them to the semi-finals in 2002.
Gunes, yeah.
Yeah, and they have a couple of very interesting players. They have Sergio New from Leicester. They have the AC Milan playmaker Calhanoglu. They have 3 players from Lille who won the league in France this year, including the strikers, Yilmaz, who's 35 and has had an amazing season. And there's just the group that they're in, okay, they've got Italy, Wales and Switzerland. If they can finish in the top 2, I just think they've got half a chance of surprising some people. That's just looking at it from a purely look at the draw and think who might have a kind enough route there. And that's maybe where they come into it. But I do think Croatia are still worthy of mention. Now, there is an element again, and it's a recurring theme almost with Bale and Wales, and you can look at recent tournaments that Modric is still such a good, such a big player for them, and he's 35 now. But they still, they've only had a handful of changes from the team that got to the semi-final in 2018. They have the 2 guys at Milan, Perisic and Brozovic, who've won the league this year in Italy. You can go around the team, and you just have a sense that Croatia will be underestimated again. And international football, and we talked about earlier on about as much as they've been dodgy defensively, and that is obviously a slight concern. But you can look at the squads on paper, but if you have a bit of understanding and you can approach a knockout situation with that sort of bit of understanding and a bit of harmony, it can take you pretty far into a competition. It's not the high level that you have at the top end of the Champions League. It's not necessarily all elite. You have sort of squads with some great players and maybe some average players, and unity and harmony and all these things really matter, particularly when you get to the latter stages. And that's why I just think the Croatians could do okay again, because they certainly they look to have that still. I think Turkey are one definitely to watch with half a chance.
Shane Keegan, any dark horse for you?
Same boring answer, I'm afraid, JD. For me, it's Turkey, for most of the reasons Dan has said there. I mean, they topped the Netherlands group in qualifying. So they've shown a good pedigree already, and they seem to be, a very, very settled side. They know what works for them. They very much know what works. There'll be no question marks really coming into the side. As Dan said, like Yilmaz, I think any team looking to do very, very well in the tournament, you need a 1 and 2 centre forward, and they're not all that plentiful, so they're not. And Yilmaz is one of those. If you look at his stats, he does average about 1 and 2 at international level, which is very, very impressive. So with a guy who can be so clinical when it matters in the final third, I think last 8, and you'd never know, they could even possibly spring a surprise and go a step further.
Okay, who's going to win it, Dan? Who's going to win the Euros? I
just have an inkling that Belgium might do it. I know they can be the perennial disappointments, but their route isn't that bad. Although they could end up with a tough third place team, which is a bit of a variable that you have to throw into consideration. But I think they've been to the quarterfinals the last 3 major tournaments. I don't know. I just wonder, could they push the door open this time?
Shane, who's going to win the Euros?
Yeah, I'm going with France. John, I just think they're the team with the least question marks over them going into it. I really, really think I can't see what you can point to and say, well, that's the reason why they aren't capable of winning it. I think they take every box. I suppose I've kind of contradicted myself a little bit. That the whole thing with Benzema is possibly the only question mark, but that's more of an off the field question mark than an on the field question mark. But I think they look excellent in all areas of the field. Now they're going to have to do it on the opposite to what Dan has said about Belgium. They are going to have to do it the hard way, obviously. So they are. But I just think they have enough quality about them, and watch Manchester United fans go crazy when Paul Pogba absolutely lights the tournament up yet again.
So Dan, does this mean you're going for De Bruyne, player of the tournament, and Lukaku top scorer?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, there's possibly something in that. I haven't thought about the top scorer thing too much. I'll have to have a look at that and see, because obviously you do have a group with Pearl, North Macedonia in it, and you could have a situation where someone just has a good day and it turns up. Although, I mean, Macedonia are in because you have this novelty that they had to have a League D team in it. So that's obviously why they're there, if people are wondering. But I think De Bruyne, I mean, it's going to ask something of him to bounce back. But I hope he does.
Okay.
I think he could be up there, yeah.
And Shane, top scorer, player of the tournament, very briefly.
Yeah, I go Lukaku for top goal scorer, even though I think France will win it. I think France will share the goals around a little bit more, whereas Lukaku will bang them all in for Belgium, and I'm going for Kylian Mbappe for player of the tournament.
I'm going for France and Mbappe, player of the tournament and winners. I agree with you there, Shane. I haven't worked out who's going to be the top scorer yet, but I'm sure I'll change my mind a few times between now and Friday. Lads, thanks so much. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, Jenny.
Dan McDonnell there from the Irish Independent and the coach Shane Keegan on OTB Football Saturday here on News Talk. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can get the podcast later on as well. Don't forget, we're back tomorrow from 1 until 7. Neil Tracy in the chair. Just to let you know before that, it's been a draw in the hurling. Wexford 218, Antrim 121 in Division 1 Group B. So Neil Tracy hosting tomorrow. We're going to hear from Damien Delaney and Eamon Dunphy, both looking ahead to the Euros. We got updates from James Scahill at the Galway Waterford Hurling League game. Taggy Fogarty as well will cast his eye over Kilkenny and Laois. The former Footballer of the Year, Kieran Donaghy, will join us for an interview. We'll also talk rugby with James Downey and Kieran O'Reilly and Cliona Foley. They are the guests on the Sunday paper review, picking out the best stories. So be sure to join Neil from 1 until 7. What's going to be a great show here on Off the Ball on News Talk. If you missed our Saturday panel, preview of the Euros with Richard Dunn and David Myler, or any of OTB Football Saturday with Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan, you can find the podcasts of all of our content on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store to download the app for iOS and Android, or listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.